What is up, everyone? Falcor here, and today let's talk about the tipping culture and how it has absolutely got out of hand. Now, before we get into this video, if you have not subscribed, you're late. Just slap that button real quick and join us. A little brief history lesson on tipping and tipping culture. In the early 1800s, tipping was not a thing. It was very minimal at best. Now, after the Civil War, all the rich, wealthy people that came back from Europe thought, let's steal Europe's idea, because that's where they were tipping the most. Let's just adopt their plan in Europe. And so they took it, brought it to America, and said, why don't we make this into a business plan? And so that is why companies decided to use tipping as a way to pay their employees. Obviously, it's been working for them, not so much for everybody else. But when I say tipping culture being out of hand, what am I talking about? Well, just the other day, I went to Wingstop just to get some wings, because I love me some wings, and ordered my food, waited like the usual 45 minutes, finally got my food when I went to pay for it. On the screen, as most of you have already seen before, and is now a common thing, is an iPad that turns around and says, how much do you want to tip? Why am I tipping somebody making my food when you already get paid an hourly wage? Well, mainly it's because this is a way for companies to save money and to increase the pay to their employees without having to pay them. So I have about 10 years of experience in the food business, so I feel like my opinion has some weight to it. The problem is that we're getting tip fatigue. I heard that word the other day. It just made the most sense. Having tip fatigue is a thing. To go out to a restaurant or get a massage or get your boots shined, whatever, you tip, right? You go get your hair cut, you tip. Those are kind of like the standard things, right? But if I'm going to McDonald's or Wingstop or a Steak and Shake, why am I being asked to tip? Should I blame the employees? Should I blame the companies? 100% the companies. I'm not going to blame a server or a bartender that I have to leave an extra 20% tip. I'm never going to do that, obviously. But what I am very much tired of seeing is this country able to be ran by companies and not by people. Because if we had say in how this country would work, I feel like things would be a little bit different, right? You would pay your employees a good wage and not have to rely on the public to tip people. There are several countries that tipping is not a thing. Japan, I do believe, is one of those countries that tipping is not a thing. You go in, you get your food, and they will actually not accept money because they get paid well. Another thing that some people don't understand too with tipping, for a lot of places, that is their only wage. So please keep that in mind right now until maybe we can change it one day. I don't know. But right now, tipping is literally their only wage. The only money they get. When I was server bartender, for 8 years, my wage, shit you not, was $2.13. However, every year that I worked at the company, I did get a raise, and I think I got it up to $2.18 an hour. So keep that in mind when you go out and eat, and that, while this tipping culture is still going on and you do want to eat at a restaurant, that tipping your server is literally paying for their rent, paying for their meals. Just understand that. That goes for everyone. Everyone. 18 to 20% is about the minimum right now. 18 being you did your job, you did fine. 20% and beyond, you just blew my mind on the service and the levels of service that you gave me. This tipping culture that we have gotten into now is, I feel like, completely just making everybody broke, for lack of a better description on what's going on, is that right now the economy is kind of shit. We're not doing anything about it. We're just accepting it. And I don't know if I'm trying to rally people to say, don't go into a Wingstop and leave a tip. You can do that. I'm not telling you can't do that. Am I going to do that? Absolutely not. I just feel like that if you're getting paid a decent wage, especially at places like Wingstop, I'm not going to give you more money. That's just my opinion on the thing. Being in the industry for almost 10 years, and having to work for my wage, literally buy tips, it's just my opinion that I'm not going to leave a tip at a place like Wingstop where you're getting paid enough. What I would love to see is we change this culture into maybe having our companies pay us more. Is it possible? Maybe. Probable? I don't know. To be honest, it seems like we are just too far down this rabbit hole of tipping that there's no way to get back so that the companies can pay people a livable wage and still have the same amount of employees. What that means is if somehow we get to a point where companies will pay their employees, and I'm talking about, of course, bartenders, servers, whatever, all the normal places where you tip, restaurants, bars, whatever, those places. I'm not talking about you, Wingstop. Go like yourself. But all the other places where you don't get paid a livable wage, if a company were to change that and say where I was getting paid $2.13 an hour, instead the restaurant that I was working for would pay me $15 to $20 an hour, that means that instead of having 10 people on the floor serving an entire restaurant, you're going to have like 2. And the service is going to be probably terrible because a company at this point now have been able to pay people less for years. And so they have gained profit for years. And the way businesses work is that for several years in a row, if you're paying more out and not making money as much as you did the previous years, your business is going to fall apart. What do? We're not going to have restaurants anymore? Well, that's not going to be a thing. I don't have a fix for this. All I am doing right now is ranting about this awful tip culture and how all these other, to be honest, poop stank businesses that are trying to adapt and adopt into this tipping culture and make you feel guilty, you know, when you don't tip. I honestly, and somebody can probably tell me in the comments, feel like a manager at some of these places that are now doing tipping train new employees to say, hey, make sure you turn that iPad very slowly on the screen that says tip me now. I have literally like looked somebody dead in the eyes as they slowly turned the iPad around. I just felt guilt tripped at that point to like leave $1. Still, with food prices and everything going up constantly and wages are still the same, there's going to be a breaking point, I feel like, for society at some point to just say, hey, I'm just not going to tip anymore. And then what? Like, then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What do we do? How do we fix this? And Wingstop and all you other guys, would you just stop? Stop doing the thing, you know, start being a bunch of tropes. Tropes. You're troping right now. You're trying to trope and it's getting on our nerves. Or at least it's getting on my nerves. I feel like I'm not alone in this. I definitely know that I'm not alone in this. I know that the majority of society and people are getting tired of being asked to tip when you are at a fast food restaurant. The last thing I want to do is when I want to try to pay, 10 years ago, it was like $5 for a meal. Now it's like 10 when I go into a fast food restaurant that I'm asked to tip. I'm just not going to do it. I'm sorry if this pisses some of you off, that I'm not going to tip you, that you're getting paid at a normal rate. Don't get pissed at me. Get pissed at your company for not paying you correctly. It is not my job to pay you because you're not my employee. Maybe that's just me. That's my rant for today. Tipping culture sucks right now. It's getting worse. Tipping fatigue is at an all-time high. And until the next video, Falcor out. See ya!